The Prodigies of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Series 19. Volume 34, August 23, 1936. The little field assigned to the creature within the immensity of the divine will. Jesus places his life at the creature's disposal, as long as he obtains that they live in the divine will. The greatest prodigy of creation is the Virgin. I continued my abandonment in the Fiat. My poor mind swims within its divine sea and comprehends celestial secrets. But I am unable to repeat them, because those are not words from down here. While I am inside this divine sea, I look at its immensity. There is not one being or anything that can escape it. Everyone and everything form their life and receive it in the divine volition. But what can the creature take of this immensity? Just little drops, such is her littleness. But while she takes the little drops, she cannot go out of this immensity. She feels it flowing inside and out, to the right and to the left, everywhere, unable to sneak out of it even just for one instant. O divine will, how admirable you are! You are all mine. You raise me within you. I find you everywhere. You love me always, unto forming the life of my life. But while my mind was making its round within this sea, my sweet Jesus, all goodness, came out from within this sea, and drawing near me told me, "Daughter of my volition, did you see how the immensity of my Fiat is unreachable? No created mind, as holy as it might be, can embrace it and see where its boundaries end. All have their place in it. Even more, each creature has her little field within the immensity of my divine will. But who works this little field that was assigned to the creature? The one who lives in it, because by her living in it, my will makes itself the first worker, and taking the creature upon its lap, it keeps her occupied, identified with the work it wants her to do in the tiny little field that was given to her in my will. And since she possesses its creative strength, whatever the creature might do in a century, together with it, she does in 1 hour. So in an hour she can acquire a century of love, of works, of sacrifices, of divine knowledges, of profound adorations. And after the work, my will calls the soul to rest, in order to delight each other and rest together. And then, seeing the beauty of the little field and the joy that they experience, in order to delight each other more, they return to work. It is an alternation of work and of rest. In fact, among the many qualities that my divine will possesses, there is continuous motion and attitude. It is never idle. On the contrary, to each creature it gave its continuous work, in order to be glorified and to do good to all. Lazy beings do not exist in my will, but rather, in it, everything is work. If she loves, that is work. If she applies herself to getting to know us, it is work. If she adores us, if she suffers, if she prays, that is work, and divine work, not human, which converting into a little coin of infinite value, lets her acquire the value with which to make her little field bigger. Now, my daughter, you must know that it is my absolute will for the creature to do my will. How I long to see her reigning and operating in it. How I wish to hear her say, "The will of God is mine. Whatever God wants, I too want. Whatever God does, I do as well." Now, because it is my will for her to live in it, I had to give her the means, the necessary aids. And here comes my humanity, placing itself at the creature's disposal in the tiny little field of the immensity of my will assigned to her, as I display my strength in order to sustain her weakness, my pains as help of hers, my love so as to hide hers inside mine, my sanctity with which to cover her, my life as prop and support of hers, and to make of it the model for her. In sum, my divine will must find as many Jesuses for as many creatures as want to live of my will. Only then shall it no longer find any hindrance on their part, because I shall keep them hidden within me, and my will shall have to deal with me more than with them. And the creatures shall find all the aids, necessary and overabundant, in order to live of my will. This is God's usual way, that when he wants something, he gives everything that is needed, so that what he wants may have its fulfillment. Therefore I would want creatures to know that I place myself at the disposal of those who want to live of my will. They shall find my life, that shall make up for everything that is needed, in order to have them live in the sea of my divine volition. Otherwise their tiny little field, within my immensity, shall remain without work, and therefore without fruit, without happiness, and without joy. They shall be like those who live under the sun, doing nothing. The sun shall serve only to burn them, and give them such ardent thirst as to feel themselves dying. So all creatures, by right of creation, find themselves all within this immensity. But if their will does not deal with mine, they live off of themselves. They shall feel all goods burning for them, and shall have a thirst for passions, for sin, for weaknesses, that shall torment them. Therefore there is no greater evil than not to live of my will. After this, I was making my round in the acts done by the divine will in creation, and as I arrived at the conception of the Most Holy Virgin, my sweet Jesus made me pause and told me, "My daughter, the greatest prodigy of creation is the Virgin, the divine volition that subdued her human will from the very first instant of her conception, and the will of this holy creature that subdued the divine Fiat. One conquered the other. Both of them were winners. And as the divine volition entered as dominating king into her human will, so did the chains of the great divine prodigies begin in this excelling creature. The uncreated power poured itself into the created power, but so much that she could sustain the whole creation as if it were a bunch of straw. And all created things felt the created power within the uncreated power, sustaining them and contributing to their conservation. Oh, how honored they felt, and happier, because a created power was flowing in everything as their queen, to sustain them and preserve them. Her power was such that she ruled over all, even over her Creator. She was the invincible one, who with the power of the divine Fiat conquered everyone and everything. Even more, all let themselves be conquered by this divine Empress, because she held a powerful and enrapturing force that no one could resist. Even the demons felt debilitated, and did not know where to hide from this insuperable power. The whole of the Supreme Being poured himself into this created will, which had been subdued by the divine will, and the infinite love poured itself into the finite love, and everyone and everything felt loved by this holy creature. Her love was so great that more than air, it let itself be breathed by all, in such a way that this Queen of Love felt the need to love all, as Mother and Queen of all. Our beauty invested her, but so much that she possesses the strength, the love, the goodness, the enrapturing grace, such that, while she loves, she makes herself be loved by all, even from things that possess no reason. So there was no act, love, prayer, adoration, reparation, which would not fill heaven and earth. She exercised her queenship over all, and her love and everything she did flowed through the heavens, in the sun, in the wind, in everything. And our Supreme Being felt loved, prayed, in all created things, by this holy creature. A new life was flowing everywhere. She loved us for all, and made us be loved by all. It was the uncreated will that had had its place of honor in the created will, and could give us everything, and requite us for our having placed the whole creation at her disposal. Hence, with the conception of this great Queen, began the true life of God in the creature, and the life of the creature in God. And oh, the exchanges of love, of strength, of beauty, of light, between one and the other. Therefore the prodigies were continuous and unheard of, alternating in her. Heaven and earth were stupefied. The angels remained enraptured before my divine will operating in the creature. My daughter, this great lady, by living in the divine volition, felt by deeds as queen of everyone and of everything, and also queen of the great divine King, but so much that she herself formed the door in heaven to make the eternal Word descend. She prepared for him the way and the room of her womb, in which he was to form his dwelling. And in the emphasis of her ruling love, she would say to me, "Descend, O eternal Word. You shall find in me your heaven, your joys, that same will that reigns in the three divine persons." Not only this, but she formed the door and the way in order to let souls ascend unto the celestial fatherland. And only because this virgin lived on earth of divine will, as it is lived in heaven, could the blessed enter into the celestial regions and enjoy its delights, because this celestial mother keeps them covered, enveloped, and as though hidden within her glory, and in all the acts she did in the divine will. So the blessed feel within their joys the love, the works, the power of this Mother and Queen, which render them happy. What can my will not do? All possible and imaginable goods, and in the creature in whom it reigns, it places such power as to reach the point of saying to her, "Do whatever you want, command, take, give. I shall never deny you anything. Your strength is irresistible. Your power debilitates me. Therefore I place everything into your hands, that you may act as owner and queen." Now you must know that this holy creature, even from her conception, felt the heartbeat of my fiat within hers, and in each heartbeat she loved me, and the divinity loved her back with doubled love in each heartbeat of hers. In her breath, she felt the breath of the divine volition, and she loved us in each breath, and we requited her with our love, doubled in each breath of hers. She felt the motion of the Fiat in her hands, in her step, in her feet. In all of her being she felt the life of the divine will and what it did. And in everything she loved us, for herself and for all. And we loved her always, always. In each instant our love ran like rapid torrent. Therefore she kept us always attentive and in feast, to receive her love and give our own. So much so, that she came to cover all sins, and the creatures themselves, with our love. This is why our justice remained disarmed by this invincible lover, and we can say that she did whatever she wanted with the Supreme Being. Oh, how I wish that all would comprehend what living in the divine will means, so as to render all happy and holy. Volume 34, December 8th, 1936. How the Queen of Heaven, in her conception, was conceived in the merits, in the life, in the love and pains of the future Redeemer, to then be able to conceive the divine word within her, for him to come and save the creatures. My poor mind, immersing itself in the divine Fiat, found in act the conception of the Immaculate Queen. It was all festive, and called all around itself angels and saints to show them the unheard-of prodigy, the graces, the love, with which it called out of nothing this excelling creature, that all might know her and sing her praises as their Queen and Mother of all. But while I remained surprised, and would have stayed there who knows for how long, if my sweet Jesus had not called me, he said to me, I want to honor my celestial mother. I want to narrate the story of her immaculate conception. I alone can speak of it, because I am the author of so great a prodigy. Now, my daughter, the first act of this conception was a fiat of ours, pronounced with such solemnity and with such fullness of graces as to enclose everything and every one. Everything did we centralize in this conception of the Virgin. Our fiat, in which there is no past or future, held the incarnation of the Word as present, and made her to be conceived and incarnated within the very incarnation of me, future Redeemer. My blood, which I was as though in act of shedding, watered her, embellished her, confirmed her, fortified her constantly in a divine manner. But this was not enough to my love. All of her acts, words, and steps were conceived in my acts, words, and steps first, and then received life. My humanity was the refuge, the hiding place, the embodiment of this celestial creature. So if she loved us, her love was incarnated and conceived in my love. And oh, how she loved us! Her love enclosed everything and every one. I can say that she loved us as a God knows how to love. She had our same follies of love, toward us and for all creatures, such that by loving once, it loves always without ever ceasing. Her prayer was conceived in my prayer, and therefore it had an immense value, such power over our Supreme Being. And who could deny her anything? Her pains, her sorrows, her martyrdoms, which were many, were conceived in my humanity first, And then she felt within her the life of pains and martyrdom so excruciating, all animated by divine strength. Therefore it can be said that she was conceived in me. From me came her life, and everything I did and suffered lined up around this holy creature, to court her and to pour myself constantly over her, and be able to say to her, "You are the life of my life. You are all beautiful. You are the first redeemed one. My divine fiat has molded you. It has blown its breath upon you, and made you to be conceived in my works, in my very humanity. Now, my daughter, this conceiving of this celestial creature in the incarnate Word was done by us with highest wisdom, with unreachable power, with inexhaustible love, and with the decorum that befits our divine works. I, Word of the Father, having to descend from heaven in order to incarnate myself in the womb of a virgin, the mere virginity, and our having made her exempt from original sin, was not sufficient to the sanctity of my divinity. Therefore it was necessary for our love and our sanctity that this virgin be conceived in me first, with all those prerogatives, virtues, and beauties which the life of the incarnate Word was to possess. And because of this, I was then able to be conceived in she who had been conceived in me. And in her I found my heaven, the sanctity of my life, my very blood that had generated her and watered her many times. I found my very will that, communicating to her its divine fecundity, formed the life of her Son, and Son of the Father. My divine fiat, in order to render her worthy to conceive me, kept her invested and under its continuous empire that possesses all acts, as if they were one act alone, so as to give her everything. It called into action all of my foreseen merits, the whole of my life, and poured it constantly into her beautiful soul. This is why I alone can tell the true story of the Immaculate Conception and of the whole of her life, because I conceived her in me, and I am aware of everything. And if the Holy Church speaks of the Celestial Queen, they can only tell the first letters of the alphabet of her sanctity, greatness, and gifts with which she was enriched. If you, Luisa, knew the contentment I feel when I speak of my celestial mother, who knows how many questions you would ask me, to give me the joy of speaking of she whom I love so much, and who has so much loved me. You have reached the end of the Prodigies of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Volume 34, Part 2. Fiat.